Hello. Oh, let's shut that door. So it's been a while since I've streamed. Hello, thank you for joining me, whether you're watching live or watching on recording. This is the office, my studio's next door, and I'm going to be drawing today this handsome pair. So I can show you their picture large. There they are. So it's Stingy and Gillie, no prizes for guessing which one's which, and I'm going to be drawing them in a soggy rabbit style. So I've been working through some orders, and I've saved this one to do live here on YouTube and Facebook because it's a nice wide big A3 portrait of two toys. Please let me know if the volume's dodgy. I can see comments. I think I can see comments if they come in on Facebook, and I think I can see comments on YouTube. Not 100% sure that I've got that working, but hopefully if you do a comment it should come up like this. So if I put in hello on my keyboard, I should be able to see you, and then hopefully we can talk to each other. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. It's really nice to know you're there, but I realise it's also quite nice just to sit and lurk. So I will talk to you a little bit now about my process and then get drawing. So right, here we have, this is the drawing board view. Let's move that like that so you can see. So this is an A3 sheet of paper. Oh, thanks so much. Nice to see you. So I have been doing A4 and A5, which are a bit smaller. So these are the sort of stages. The drawings, they start like this in pencil. Then I ink. So this is what I'm going to be doing this session, hopefully, time permitting. And then I colour them in. So when they're coloured in, then they look like that. So I'm hoping today to get right the way through. So it'll be quite a long stream. Yeah, feel free to come in and leave, come check back later, and it'll be available to watch on my Soggy Rabbit YouTube and Facebook. There we go. So here are these are some of the ones I've been doing over the last few days. This is an A4 one. There, isn't that lovely? Bunny and Snuggly. So in this one, the muslins were really important as well. So they've got names too. So this is a soft toy portrait illustration business that I sort of run down because I was getting so busy with portraits, but I still love it and it's fantastic drawing practice. So you'll see as I go along that all the principles that you would use in a portrait, like composition and light and all the traditional techniques, they're just as relevant whether you're doing something like this or a portrait, you know, like a more traditional portrait. I particularly love this one. This is Murray's bunny. Look at that. So Soggy Rabbit is called Soggy Rabbit in celebration of exactly this sort of thing, the Soggy Rabbit, the well-loved toy. And that's what I try and capture. Now when toys are really well loved, like Stingy and Gillie here, there is a little bit of an issue in terms of just seeing the structure of the toy, and to get a likeness, just like with a human being, it's really important, I think, to appreciate the structure and kind of hold that structure. So I sometimes, and I've done it here, take images. I find the toys on the websites where they're sold and look at the product images. So I've actually got a couple of product images of the toys which I will be using a little bit because I want to rearrange the particularly the cat so that we can see a little bit more of Gillie's posture. So when I'm looking at composition, this is a great tool. So this is the mount card. It's just a scrap one. This one's a bit dirty, but I put it like that over. Let's move to the drawing board so you've got less of my face on the drawing board. So I put it over the sheet of paper. The sheet of paper is slightly more than A3, and the hole in the mount card is slightly smaller than A3, so there's a bit of overlap at the back, which gives me a little bit of capacity to move things around. Obviously it's not, because they are traditional materials, it's not as possible to do what you could do if you were on a you know, if you were doing it digitally, you could just select and drag things around, but you can't do that here. So I will. Oh, hi Laura, thank you so much for joining. It's really nice, and it's great to know then that comments are coming through on Facebook. Thank you. So right, that's about the position, and I start with a pencil. And so any old pencil, I'll probably, so at this point it might be quite hard for you to see what I'm doing, and I'll try and talk you through it as I do, but it is yeah, just a little bit tricky to see. So let's have let's see if I can get the reference photo up a bit larger for myself over here. So I have to allow a bit for the title, and when I take orders for these, I always invite people to specify their own title. And here's a trick: you can track the edge. You can hold your pencil, so you track the edge like that and get a line that's totally parallel. So it's not a very long title, and it's going to go about there. And I'm sorry, normally when I stream as Gail Reed Artist, and when I do that, I can have music in the background, but here I can't because of the licensing stuff, because I haven't paid for a license for this particular thing. So I've got up on my screen here, on my left there, this picture, just a little bit bigger. And so what I'm looking for is a way of kind of keeping true to the customer's photo, but at the same time filling the page, like making really good use of the page. And again, this is what you would do if you're doing like a dog portrait or a person or a group. So what you don't really want in this sort of situation is acres of plain background. But at the same time, I need to be kind of true to the toy. And the situation here is one's a stingray, which is really flat, and the other is this cat. So I'm going to think about kind of the boundaries. I wonder if I've got a slightly darker pencil, just so that I might just use a softer pencil and see if I've got something in here, just so that you can see a bit better what I'm doing. Yeah, here we are. I've got these lovely soft pencils. What's that? Okay, 8B. That's super soft. Right, hopefully that means you can see. And while I'm in here, I'm going to get out my putty rubber, because I'll use that once I've inked the drawing. So, right, so that's where the title's going to go. And the title that was specified is Stingy and Gillie, whoopsie, with no heart. Right, so let's go in here. Stingy. So the and would be in the middle, and then Gillie. Okay, so I will go over that in ink when I'm inking, and generally I hold my pencil like this when I'm drawing. If you're drawing detail, you can do this, but for work like this, I find it quite good, and then you get a nice loose arm. So let's just have a look at that cat from the side. And this is something I'd really like to capture in the cat. So what I'm thinking is I can kind of maybe have the head, so I might try and get this stingray sort of down here and like that, and lapping over, possibly, if I can do that, lapping over the cat's paw. So if I put the cat in like that, and that's the cat's back leg, and that is the cat's head, Then we've got the cat's tail. They're really actually very close. So we've got this kind of posture going on. There's quite a sense of that's the heel of the cat's back leg. I don't know if this is making sense. There's the cat's back paw, Gillie, I should say. So Gillie's front paw would be hidden. I'm going to see, I'm not sure if this will work, but I think it'll work. And once I've got the location of this, then I will start to look at the where the light's coming from, and that will help create a sense of form and 3D. But for now, I just need to find a kind of believable composition that uses the page and that shows off all the main features of the toys. The reference photo of the two of them together, which is really handy for seeing what size they are relative to each other. There's a risk if I draw it just like that it's going to look like Gillie's tail is growing out of his head, his or her head. So that's why I'm going to go for a slightly side posture. Right. Hoping that Gillie's owner is open to that. Sometimes I just make decisions and know that if the worst comes to the worst and the customer hates it, I'll just do it again. It's actually generally, it's very hard to make offers of choices when a customer can't really see it. So it's unfair to ask them to make a judgment. So sometimes it's better just to do the picture. And there we go. So there's an eye. Right, important artist tool, cup of tea. Oh, I haven't got my lion mug, but it does match Gillie. Right, so I'm also going to try and make sure that the two toys have equal kind of priority on the page. They are kind of the same, you know, I think they'd probably displace a similar amount of water at the same volume. So it's not a feature that they are a feature that one's much bigger. That sometimes that is a feature. So I'm going to be using some of the elements from the customer's photo here, particularly that fold in Gillie's, in Stingy's, what's it called? Fin. Is it a fin? Or wing. Might be a wing actually. Now, at the moment, we've got the same sort of tail situation here, but if I look at the product photo there, so it's a bit blurry, you can see how long that tail is. And I think I might possibly just swirl it round a little bit to see a little bit more of it. And take Stingy's head like that. And that will bring their heads really quite close together. See if that works. And I'm looking very closely now at the reference photo to see the curve there of Stingy's head and that curve there. So I want to basically put them close, and I'm going to make the cat kind of over. So I'm going to make Gillie kind of sit over Stingy in terms of face, and but Stingy will be over Gillie in terms of lapping over the paw. Hopefully that makes sense to you watching and makes sense to their person. Right, so the tail would come somewhere like that. And we've got, let's have a close look at those reference photos. There. Right, so there is a secondary, there's a secondary wing. You can sort of see it there, which I don't want to miss out. So let's go back to the drawing board, hopefully. Right. So I think I can make this wing a bit bigger here. And now we've got the eyes. So there's an eye here and an eye here. Like that. And a seam. These things like these seams are very important for structure, and in getting the structure right you get the likeness. I think there's nothing romantic about getting a likeness. It's just getting things in the right place. You can capture mood using colour and stuff like that, but likeness, the primary thing is shape, getting those shapes right. Right, so if you're watching this thinking this is like watching paint dry, I wouldn't blame you. You can either stick a comment or a question in the chat and I'd be really happy to answer, or you can come back because I'll be here for probably a couple of hours. Right, when you're drawing anything like protrusions, like ears on a monkey, say, if the toy was a monkey, or hands or shoulders, it's always really helpful to kind of imagine you take out the bit of the middle and make sure that they flow through. And I'm just doing that here with that back fin, because you can just about see the back fin. I don't know if you can see it there on that reference photo. And I want to make sure if Stingy's body was removed that those kind of line up. Excuse me, if that makes sense. I'm going to slightly articulate that there. Okay. Get that curve right there. Right, and just looking at volumes, I can see on the on this picture, there we are here, that the volume of the wing is about the same as the volume of the head, and so that looks right. And then I'm just looking at the angle of my bit there. This sort of time spent at this point doing these kind of checks is really useful later, because it saves corrections later. Yeah, so I'm just going to take that body round and make that curve like that to just show a little bit more. Do we think? Or it could go here. I wonder about that. I think actually that might work. What do we think? I'm quite tempted to do something like kick that up a little bit. Use my putty rubber. I'll try it. Once I've gone in with the ink, there's no going back. But until then, I'm really at liberty. So I've got quite a nice sort of diagonal thing going here. So if that was like that, say, I think that feels like Stingy has just kind of swum through the depths like that. I think I'll do that. Okay, right, and now let's go back to the cat photo just to see that side view of the cat, Gillie. And I want to make sure now that I've got that paw right. So Gillie's head is quite low, and I can see on the customer's photo they've kept the label on. So Gillie's got like a round label, which I'll make sure I don't forget. And quite a sort of big forehead. Muzzle. I'm definitely a cat person. I don't mind dogs, they're fine. But yes, I love my cats. Catwoman. just squinting to try and get those angles right and have a sense that it's nice. It's a nice pose they've used in this product picture, and I think it's really nice to use it. Just trying to get that, to very slightly stretch that shoulder position and open it up so that if you look at the customer photo, we've got, can you see that? I'll go in a bit closer. There, we've got there's a label under Gillie's chin that I want to get in. So I need to make sure there that I leave enough room. You can hardly see it in that photo. So yeah, it won't hurt that Gillie's head's up a little bit, so a little bit more like that than in the product photo. And then Stingy's like that, there, and then we can put the, just there will be Gillie's. Right. Right, maybe you're watching and this is actually your toy. Maybe this is for you, and maybe by the time you're watching this you might already have received your picture, and if so, I'd better say I hope you had a lovely Christmas, and I hope you love your drawing, and I hope it inspires you to do your own drawings of your toys, because they are beautiful toys. There, and we've got some. Okay. Right, starting to come together. Now, I always find it helps to decide where the light's coming from, because then I can have cast shadows. So I'll show you on, let's have a look. Oh, sorry. That's no good, is it? I don't know how I turn that off. Can't turn my own phone off. Right, so light-wise, can you see on here, I've basically just done a very subtle bit of cast shadow there, and form shadow here, where the light, so the light in this picture is coming from the left. And then in some of them, I've done the light coming from the right. So on this one, the light's coming from the other side. And the reason I really did that was just looking at the shape of the toys and where they fit in relation to the title. Again, just to try and make a nice composition and make it all work. And I'm absolutely sure in this situation that it makes sense to have the light coming from this side, because I've got space here for the cast shadow, and this would look really crowded. And here, where I've got that, I can put some nice cast shadow under Stingy's tail there and round here. So it'll really help, and I'll have a nice dark area there. So I think that's a no-brainer, which is really nice. That makes my life easier. And I just want to check before I start going in with the ink that I've got a sense of, yeah, just what's going on here. So there's a bit of a kind of point down here, and a sense of that coming around like that. Obviously I've changed the form slightly, but I just want to make sure that works there. Now I can rub out. I will go over with the rubber basically when I might have a little break when I've done the pencil, and then I go over with the ink, and then I'll rub out all the pencil so that it doesn't mix with the coloured pencil. But until then, while I'm doing these kind of early structural lines, it's I might as well keep it clean, because when I'm rubbing out over ink, there's always a very slight risk of getting that ink, smudging the ink, and we don't want that, do we? And it just helps me see and check what it's going to look like. Right, hopefully if this is your Stingy and Gillie, you're looking at this thinking, yep, that looks like the ones I know and love. Just check that eyeball is in the right place, and this one would be probably very slightly more there. Maybe I need to bring this seam here. So I'm just really making sure that there's enough room that side. It'll be foreshortened, so this gap will be less than that because Stingy is coming towards you, but I don't want it to be too much less. And I don't want it to protrude too much either. And again, this eye would be very slightly smaller, and that gives a real, that makes this bit pop forward by having that that going on. And then we've got there, yeah. Okay, right. That looks fine. Just a quick sort of sense check. I'm just going to look on my screen just to see if there have been any comments on YouTube that I've missed. No, I'm all right, I think. Yeah, fine. Okay, sorry about that. Right, quick cup of tea and then I'll talk to you about the ink. Right, so these materials I use really traditional materials, and including ink pen and ink. And this is where I realise, where are my ink pens? Had a bit of a tidy up. I think my ink pens are, oh here they are, right. Here are my trusty steeds. Those are the pens. But do you know what? I think I've left my ink in the other room. So I'll just go and get my ink. Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to pop that down. Now this is where it's really annoying that I don't have a license to use music on this channel, but there's my there we go, sorry about that. Right, so what I was rescuing was this, my ink, and I also use a pot of water. It's just inky water, but that's just to like rinse off the pen so that it doesn't get all clogged up with ink. Put my mic back on. Okay, so I've got, you can see there's a couple of pens here. And I don't know if you can see them like that. They're pretty old and their nibs are, that one's a bit fatter. So, and I really like, part of the charm of using ink and dipping pens is the unpredictability of it. So if you want to take it to extremes, you can draw with matchsticks, and they're really effective, or twigs. So lots of artists do use things like that, and it adds an element of chance into the drawing. I don't want too much chance, but I'll just see. Excuse me 1 second, I'm just going to check that's not anything important. Right, so that was a very handy call. Hello, Rob. Just to say that Gillie's name is not spelt that way. Gillie's name is with a Y. So this is, that would be irreversible if I did that in ink. So I'm really happy that I took that call. I thought it might be school saying somebody's broken something, so I'm really glad that's all it was. Right, let's go back to this. So, okay, so here we are. And just so you know, I am cheating slightly. I've also got a screen here with a bigger version, so I can really see the pair of them and see things like that Gillie's got shiny eyes. Right. Okay, so let's talk about ink a little bit. So here is my ink. This is, I'm probably going to use this pen, but because this is A3, I might go for the slightly thicker pen. But I will start with the thinner pen. Rob, I know I've received a comment on Facebook, so even though you can't comment on YouTube, and I have no idea why, if you want to go to Facebook, you probably can, but it doesn't matter. I don't need. Yeah, you can always call, as we've proved. Right, I'm just trying to focus the camera a little bit better on that drawing board for the sake of seeing that ink. That's worse, isn't it? Here we go. Right. Yeah, it's still not quite sharp, is it? I've got this camera that really, I bought it because you can focus it and it doesn't track your hand. I think that's about the best. Right, there we go. Right, so I always use a sheet for checking that I don't go blobby, because, you know, that's the thing. So this might, you know, it does happen, hopefully not right at the end. But Rob, you caught me just before I did the writing, because let's just get that. In fact, let me just go in a bit closer. There. How about that? Okay. So yeah, so it starts to get thinner. So you can use that property of the ink. When it's first dipped, it's quite nice and thick, and then it goes thinner. And having decided where the light is, I will, now I can focus it again actually on there we go. Right, lovely. So having decided that the light is coming from the left, if I'm, when I'm drawing the toys on the left hand side, I tend to use the, I tend to wait till it's running out a little bit of ink, and then the lines get lighter, and that all pays off in the end in terms of making the picture have form, hopefully. That's the theory anyway. Right, so because the title is the high risk area, I always start with the title, because what I don't want to do is do a big picture, whoops, and then put the title in. I just knocked my camera, and then realise it's realise I've blobbed the title. So I'm gonna go, I'll go quiet for a second. So right, let me just check in terms of scale that I'm using a sensible. So I'm looking to go, yeah, that's my kind of plan, Stingy, and so I'm looking at that sort of scale. So if I make sure it's in the middle, I really want to start, yeah, a little bit to the left there. Okay, so it's hand done, so it's not going to be perfect. It's always going to have an element of, right, you get quiet for a second, high tension. Right. Stingy. Make sure that I have freshly dipped pen for each one. Right, Stingy and Gillie. I'll take that up a tiny bit. Okay, there we go, fine. Right, so that is the slightly tricky bit done. Let's see if I can get this no more. I'll get it on the drawing, because once this is lined up, I can focus it. Sorry about the creaking. And then you can watch the drawing come together as close as you can and see as much as possible. Right. Okay. Right. So working from left to right, because I'm right-handed, and using a combination of reference photos, I will start over here, and I won't put those cast shadows on till the end. And yeah, and as I said, the sides that are in the light, I will make sure are done with the less dipped pen. So I just sort of start with a kind of low risk area, and I'm going to go for this sweep up here. We've got some fur here, and then there's a lovely curve there. So Stingy has got quite well cropped fur. Okay, and get that up over there. So I'm just mapping out those areas, and then now the pen is getting very slightly lighter or thinner. Sorry, you can't see my face there, can you? Like that. A slight sense of an overlapping edge there, up round here. It's really thinning out now, which is lovely. And then this is something you do with figures, like you just taking that over like that, it reads that this comes in front, this fold, and if you look at the reference photo, that is kind of what's happening on there. We've got a bit of a little subtle crease here, and then the same thing going on here where you've got like a slight crease that comes up like that. This has to relate to this. And they're quite severe at the moment because of the ink pen, but it will definitely tone down once I put the colour on, because that goes over the ink, and then at the end I go in with more severe ink, just to pick out the darkest darks to get that lovely contrast. Right, and so I've really got very little ink now on the pen, and I can do really subtle bits that I don't want to commit to possibly too much at this stage, till I can see how the whole thing is fitting together, and paying very close attention now. My eyes are darting backwards and forwards to the reference photo. Right, let's get that body there, that curve there, try and get a sense of some energy in Stingy's turn. And here we go. Right, and a slightly broken line, so you can even break those lines a little bit. Right, and I'm going to take, again, have that sense of the sort of slightly overlapping edge. So having mapped it out in pencil, you get a second chance with the ink. But this is, no, I really do need to dip now. Okay. Right, so this area here is going to be really nice and dark. So let's go in there. So there's Stingy's eye and a fold there. Right, and then this comes over here. That will come like that. Okay, and right, so there is Stingy's tail. I hope. And the tail, looking at the picture, that one, which you can't really see, there's a kind of fat bit of tail and then a long thin bit. So I really want to try and get that in, but also like have a sense of continuation. So I'm going to leave that unbroken, sorry, that broken line there. And I can see a bit of a thing there. And then the that back fin, as I said, connecting across there like that. And there's not much of it, but it is obviously very important. Okay, so let's do that. Map out that eye. It's going to go here. Okay, now Gillie. Let's move over. Sorry, it's really creaky. I'm just trying to get my camera sorted. Right. I'm going to have to go up a bit. Sorry, folks. Okay, there we go. Right, now let's have a look at Gillie. I'm going to use that one for most of Gillie, and then when we look at fur, actually Gillie's quite well preserved, I have to say. Not too bobbly and looking nice and clean. Very well looked after cat. My cats are white, 2 of them, and so they are they get very dirty. They like hanging out under cars, which isn't very nice. Right. So I'm just looking for anchor points. I'm really trying to keep a sense of this muzzle and the position of Gillie's face. So we're going to like that, and then I'm looking for this triangle of the nose here, and then looking from there across to there. So we've got like the muzzle coming across here. Very easy here, and then I've got two kind of, I've got a jump like that, and then another one, a cheek there. Okay, now in the, right, I'm just going to try and get that seam because I want to get the structure right. So there's actually a continuation from here. I think that should be there. So I'm going to lose that. I've got away. I'm going to lose that line there. But there's a continuation up here, and then eye here, which I'm going to just loosely block for now. And then I'm looking at the volume of this. So we've got like a round area here, and then a bit here, and then this cheek, big bit of cheek, and then the corner of the cheek. So we've got that bit there, which extends actually slightly to the left of the eye, looking at a plumb line, and then up like that. Okay, right, and then if I may need to make sure that camera's square actually to the page, otherwise the proportions will look a bit odd to you. Right, hopefully that looks right. It's amazing actually how little detail you need to get a likeness if you get the structure right. Right, need another dip. Okay, so I'm looking at the eye, the anticipated eye position, which I think is going to be like this here, something like that. And then from there, there's a curve up to here. From here, it goes over. And then, like I said, with the ears going behind the head, I'm going to imagine conversely that head continuing behind the ear, so that when I put the ear in, I don't lose a sense of the form of the... Oh, I've got a knock at the door. Hang on a second. Maybe it's a cup of tea. Oh. Hello, it's not a cup of tea. You know you can't come in if you're not bearing tea.
Sorry.
Hello.
YouTube has a slow chat on.
Yes.
And I've been commenting in the chat.
Oh, have you? Oh, right.
It's not coming up.
Oh, okay.
I just thought I'd
Ah, okay. Right, thank you. Yeah, I did put slow chat on, but it was obviously super slow.
It's 20 seconds.
Right. But it's not coming up on my thing.
No.
All right.
I just thought I'd mention.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yes.
Hi everyone.
This is my son Leon.
Subscribe.
That's him there. Right, okay. Thanks, Leon.
Sorry.
Well, that explains why I'm not seeing your comments. I tried to put that on. There's a feature that you can put on for slow chat, basically to stop if someone does decide to litter the chat with profanities, then it means it doesn't happen too quickly and I got a chance to slow it down. It's only happened once. Right. So now I'm being very careful to locate the corresponding join of the ear in relation to the eye and the other ear. So I reckon it's there, that corner. And then we get that ear like that. Okay. And then this, we need a sense of coming down there. Right. And then that detail there will all come in later. So this area here, I'm being very light with it because it's all in the, it's going to be in the light. So actually that area will mostly be done with a light pen. There like that. And now that I've got Gillie's profile here, I can complete Stingy behind, because Stingy will, the dark, that's going to be really dark, hopefully making Gillie pop forward. So it's really nice that Gillie's got a light muzzle and Stingy's a dark colour, so they can really contrast with each other. So I think that'll make sense. And what else have we got here? So, oh yes, so I can see the actual Gillie has got this disc here, like that, and then I will do Stingy's like that. Okay, and now we'll go, there's Gillie's. That's actually probably not the border. That's, yeah, I won't draw with ink where the white meets the ginger. Because that wouldn't be, that's not a dark line, it's just a, right, now I'm looking in relation to the head. Let's get that body structure. So I'm looking at that back, the joint of the back, you know, the knee here is like that. Very like a real cat, actually. It's amazing. Is that, you know, I have so much respect for toy model pattern cutters, the way they convey character with the cut of the fur of the toy. Right, and that's nice. So that's fitting nicely. I'm checking this edge against this edge to make sure it's there we go. Right, and then this here we'll have, and we've got a little bit more space here because it's going to have a cast shadow, so that's fine. There, right, and then actually there's a bit of a joint like that, and there'll be a bit of a shady area in here, so I'm going to map that in for reference. Okay, I'm just looking at that thinking, I'm wondering if I should move, I feel like I should move Gillie's eye up just a tiny bit, so I'm just going to, while I can, move that muzzle like that. That feels better. To there, right. There, okay. So that is reserved for eye. I'll go in that later. And there. Right. And we have, I keep saying right, sorry. It's such a non-word. Don't like non-words. And there. So that's all going to be a dark area in there as well. So that the fur, I can define that boundary, get a real sense of the texture on the boundary there. Right, and then we've got a little bit of bottom here. Try to look at the roundness of the shape there, make sure I've got the right volume here. And then the tail, so I was a bit wrong with that tail when I did the drawing. That tail, if you look at the ear, is coming in kind of high. So that's really nice actually. That gives a lovely sense of, it's like a sense of the focus going that way. You know, they direct their tails towards what they're looking at. Well, I don't know if they really do, but we'll pretend they do. Right, okay, so now I don't want to go too random with the fluff because Gillie's fluff is actually quite smooth in life and not too bobbly, so I don't want to make, you know, like so it's not like this, which is really kind of lovely scruffy fur. I'm respecting the fact that Gillie is has a life yet to live, I'm sure, and may not always be this pristine. And similarly, the fur on the face is white, so I will keep that really subtle. Okay, right, so what we do have though is a really clear edge here where Gillie's cheek starts and a bit of a crease here. So I'm not going to go too hard on that, but I am going to put a bit of shadow there to help throw Gillie's face forward once I'm in the colouring mode. And also here, I'm just going to emphasise that to distinguish between what's tail and the joint between the tail and the thigh. Okay, and obviously that's foreshortened, but not as much as the not as much as on there where the tail is really thin, and I can see that that would read slightly confusingly. So okay. Okay, let's go. Right, I need to get the seam in, so let's put that, and that will be a really useful anchor. And now I'm looking at the reference photo because Stingy does have quite a lot of texture, and looking at it a little bit more like there. So there's Stingy's eye, and I think you can see a tiny bit of Stingy's eye here as well, so that's quite nice to have that in. We can have deep shadow here. And here, and a little bit just there under. Right, and then some texture here. I don't want to overdo it, but there's some really good texture, and in a when you're drawing dogs and things with fur, like for pet portraits, it's really handy to know where the form moves from the light to the dark, because that is typically where you'll get the most sign of texture. So I'll have a little bit of shadow there and here under that. So it's about here, where if you imagine the light coming from there, which is the same as the reference photo, which is very helpful. But to be honest, I quite often throw the light, you know, and change the lighting that is in the reference photo. So this this texture I will work on more with the white ink pen. That will be more of a chance to show it, because sometimes this black can look rather heavy and prickly, and I can see that Stingy isn't prickly. I wonder if I can do a very slight cast shadow there to bring that eye out. One of the nice things that I use, this is for the A3 pictures, I use something called Strathmore toned tan paper, and well, I'm going to do Gillie's. Gillie's got 2 paws, and I think I'm going to suggest that like that there. What was I saying? I can't remember. Oh yes, so I'm using this Strathmore paper, and it's really okay, really absorbent, and therefore the ink dries really quickly, which is very handy. So this is like with the watercolour. If you're doing watercolour, you do the background dark, and it makes the foreground pop forward. So that's what I've done there. I haven't gone too dark with the ink, I'll do it later. And oh yes, I can see Gillie's got a lovely kind of yellow eyeballs on the outside and then black on the inside, so that's fine. I'll make that, I'll take account of that. You can see that in your photo. Right. And just looking, I'm not looking at the colour now, I'm just looking at the direction of the fur using your photo of the actual Gillie. And also, rather helpfully, I can see on the actual reference photo, let's have a close-up look there, that Gillie has ear lining that you can't really see on the product photo, so that's really handy. So we'll put that in. Here we go. So right, looking at where it goes in terms of the seam, so it actually comes like this, I think. And then so that is fur there, and underneath is felt, so you'd see a little bit of fur, I think. Let's do that. And similarly here, I guess, yeah, like a proper cat. Right, now let's just look at Gillie's nose. So I'm just going to check with a pencil that we have. Let's look at that product photo. I'm going to have a close-up look. So now I'm just looking at the nose, and your photo, so the actual Gillie photo is much more helpful, but I just need to get that position. So the muzzle has a definite sort of blocky, almost rectangular shape like that. And then often for cats and dogs it's quite useful to, and people, it's useful to draw that centre line. And cats obviously have quite a definite shape going on there. So let's put that in now. So I'm doing the nostrils, make sure there's a flow across the nostrils, and then that bit there. And then we'll have fur here, like that, and a little bit of texture going on underneath. Okay, and then that cream is going to come out to there, I think. Okay. Right, and I can see on this photo that there is a writing on there. I can't actually read the writing. That doesn't matter as long as it's a reproduction, because it'll be in shadow anyway. Something tots. Okay. Right, we're nearly ready now to just colour, but before I colour I will do that edge and do that cast shadow, which is what anchors the toy onto the page. So I'm going to go in a bit closer, hopefully, and rotate this down here, so it'll be. Hopefully that's. Sorry about my creaking. Okay, I can move this over a bit. And I really want to keep a sense of. Oh, can you hear the carrion outside? Don't know what sort of carrion that is, but it's an angry one, whatever it is. Right. Okay, so check I've got that square. Yeah, so I've got a little bit more airspace this side than the other side to allow for this bit of depth. And this is really what makes them look as though they're not just floating in the air. I'm really sorry you can't comment. Rob, if you want to say anything, and you can send me a WhatsApp. I will have a look at my WhatsApp in a second. So if there's anything going awry or you've got any questions, you can put them in WhatsApp and I'll have a look in a second. I'm really sorry. I don't know what's happened. Usually it's fine, but then usually I stream on Gelweed Artist YouTube, not this one. Okay. And here, so in here, and I try not to make it too formulaic, but also really go in dark on the bits where the toy is touching the ground, and it gives that sense of, like here, you know, it just gives more of a sense of depth and weight. And then I'll move the camera over so you can watch as I do. Oh, maybe if I turn my page, it'd actually be easier for me too. And then turn my camera. Whoa, that's good, that works. Okay. Just check it's coming out right. And then here, so this is a really key area. So by making them longer, I'm creating a longer shadow where the Stingy's armpit, for want of a better word, is there. And then I've got this sort of dark area here where it's touching the ground. I hope that makes sense. And we'll have a bit here. So now I've got not too much ink on my pen, so I can put a little bit here, but not too much. I don't want to kind of overburden that tail. Like that, and then also here. Almost nothing, as it won't really be obscuring the light. Okay, so probably time to take a step back and look at them. I wonder, I hope you think that's okay so far if you're watching. Maybe you've decided that better things to do, more lucrative things to do than watch this. Anyway, right, so that's our progress stop, and I will do another inking, but first I'm just going to wash this off in the water, dry it off with a tissue. You can see, so it's not really wet, but it is just slightly damp in places like that, and I don't want to rub over it with the rubber until it's had a couple of minutes to dry. So let's just check. I'm going to say cheers. I'm going to check my WhatsApp. Oh, thank you. That's fantastic. Looking amazing. Wonderful. Right. Thank you. So, yeah, I needed just a couple of minutes to have a cup of tea. So while I'm doing that, I could actually get some pencils ready. We have at our disposal, so I use a mixture of Derwent drawing pencils, which are absolutely brilliant. They're lovely, they're slightly waxy, and so they don't smudge particularly, but they're not completely waxy, so you can lift them a bit. So if I draw in dark pen on here, I won't be able to completely lose it, but it'll be enough. So looking at beautiful Gillie, I'm reaching for the oranges and gingers. I've got sanguine, Mars orange, yellow, and I've got a kind of off-white and a pure white. And then there's a lovely kind of almost like a pink, obviously there's a bit of pink for the nose, and then I can see a kind of creamy colour, which I'll probably just make up with a mixture of this warm earth and off-white, and I'd say that's probably Gillie, and then Stingy. It looks as though there's a very slightly blue tint to that underlayer, and then a kind of warm grey colour on the top. So for that, somewhere I've got some really nice Gruffalo pens, but I don't know where they are. So I will be using probably this and that. So these are lovely greys. Right, okay, so I will just work my way around doing, so because I did the writing quite a while ago, I can easily rub that out now. So this putty rubber, like that, they're brilliant, and they last for absolutely ages. It's quite warm in here, so this is really soft at the moment. Sometimes they go quite hard, but the nice thing is if you want to do really precise rubbing out, or you can use them to draw into pencil, you can mould them to a point like that. So you can dab or actually use them as a drawing tool, drawing light on dark. But I will just be using it to reveal. You can see how dry it is. Actually, I don't need this now. I can get rid of that visual noise. Let's go down a little bit further so you can see close up. Okay, so this paper has got a very slight texture. Well, not it's smooth, but it has a slight. It's lovely. It's got a slight. I don't know what I would call it. Not a patina. Tiny, not really flecks even, but just like yeah, it's just really nice. It's different to the one I use for the A4 pictures and A5 ones. So yeah, this is Strathmore paper. I'm just being careful of those edges because they were the last things I did, so they might still be a tiny bit wet. Let's do a bit of here and there. You can see the you could leave the graphite on, but when you put the coloured pencils on, they tend to pick it up and then they dull. They don't have that vibrant. You don't have the control. They can drag the graphite around. So, but it's nice. You know, you will be able, probably if you look really closely, you'll be able to see traces of the drawing decision making. So the next stage is what you would call blocking in. I don't know if you can even really see the pencil on there. There we are. See that? Yeah, there. So the next stage is blocking in, where I basically roughly put a first stab at the colours and first stab at modelling the form. So thinking about the light and just starting, and then I can judge relative to that, and that's exactly what you do if you're doing you know, the way I paint, if I'm painting in oils or drawing in you know, more formal drawings in pencil. It's the same principle. You block in and then you refine. So you go general to specific. I love Stingy's expression. It's really sly. I don't know if Stingy is a sly stingray. I'm probably just projecting onto it, but there you go. I like toys that aren't totally saccharine. Got an agenda. Nearly done. Right, nearly done with the rubbing out. Okay, and then you'll really start, hopefully you'll really start then to see the final picture coming through. Okay, let's go a bit higher. I'm going to move that like that. Right, how's that view? Okay. So, let's move that slide to characters. Right, I'm still thinking of this light, and but I'm probably going to go in with what we call local colour first. So that's a fairly true to form colour. So I'm going to start, for no particular good reason, with Gillie's markings. So I've got on the screen in front of me here, I've got the picture, the client's picture, and on the screen here I've got the picture, the product picture, and I can see that they have different markings. So I'm going to make sure that I use Gillie's markings. So Gillie has got, they probably just used like stripy fabric and put it in. So Gillie has got a good sort of bit going like this here, of that more gingery, like that, and maybe a little bit more orange. I think you won't be able to, I probably can't really show that difference on the camera, but hopefully that makes sense. So I've had another look at your photo. Right, and then a very, very feline, a bit there and here, and a stripe going here, coming up like that, and round here. Right, and I'd say that bit there actually looks quite brown. Let's see if I've got a kind of warmish brown that I could go in with. Just on the top there, let's go a little bit browner. Let's go for this. There. And that carries on here like this. And then we have this. Oh, I might just mark out, just reserve the Gillie's little white bits, so I can see there's a white bit there, and there's a white bit just behind here, which you wouldn't see so much in the pose I'm using from the product, but it is there nonetheless. Bit of highlight there, and there'll be some highlight here. And then, and here, here. I'm just going to do that muzzle all one colour to start with as we're blocking in, and then later I will distinguish between the beige on top and the white. I'm sorry that my light doesn't really let you see that terribly well. Right, and it's nice that I can see on your photo Gillie's toes as well, so we'll get those in too. But for now, and you really can't see that, can you? I wonder if I just turn my light off. I'm just going to try that to see if you can see the colours. I think you can. You see those colours better? I think you can see those colours better like this, so I'm going to turn it down. Sorry if it's a bit dark. Right, so there's another little paw under there, which although that would be in deep shadow, I feel as though it would be nice to make it. Right, and a little bit of white there and there. And I can't see Gillie's bottom, but I will look, I'm assuming It's a pretty general stripy thing going on, non-specific stripiness. This is such a great personality of toy for this sort of drawing. It's really, this sort of texture makes it, and the stripes, especially contrasting with a toy that has less, you know, less distinct markings. In fact, no markings at all. Right, let's look at your the reference picture just to check. So, yep, Gillie's ears look the same. Like they look that lovely kind of golden creamy colour. I'm just checking a bit larger. Yeah, so we've got a nice. I'm going to do it yellow and then tone it down. Now, if you want to go and have a tea or coffee, if you haven't already given up on this, because it is, I realise it is quite a slow process. We're probably going to go for another, it's going to be probably 50 minutes or something like that. So you won't miss if you want to go and have a break. But I'll keep going because I'm having a lovely time. I love my job. Some lovely hairs just there, which I think are very distinctive. I'll pick those out later. Right, and this is a kind of like averaging out sort of ginger. It's called brown ochre. It looks as though it matches Gillie's fur slightly better. Right, and pink nose. And yellow eyes around here. I've got a bit of a trick that I can do with the white pen actually for those eyes, which hopefully will make them really shine. I put a bit of white ink under and then put the yellow on top, and it should make it pop a little bit. I'm just going to warm up that muzzle very slightly. When I'm layering, I just try and layer with the pencil going in a slightly different direction. Yeah, just checking your reference photo for eyeballs and stuff like that. Okay, right, and their nose carries on like that a little bit. There we go, and down. Right, so that is Gillie kind of blocked in, and I will do the same now with Stingy. So I'm going to get close up a Stingy. There. And if I do that, you won't get the shadow. Okay, oh, this pen offering itself. Right, so I can see that Stingy's underneath is slightly bluer, and I think that will really help, you know, talking about the having of features. If you've got a feature and it's your only feature, I think you'd want it in. So that's just a slightly cooler grey, and then I'll try this. I think we'll go for this one. I'm going to do him in a couple of colours. So this is a brown, as you can see, warm earth. Using it on the side, so just not getting too many distinct pencil lines, not disturbing the pile of the paper. You can actually, there is a trick which I used on a dotty one, where you can deliberately push in with your pencils and make dents with the white, and then you can colour over the top, and it just, if you're gentle, it'll just pick up the top, and you preserve the dots like polka dots. I don't know if that made any sense at all. Right, and I do know this is too warm. But blocking in is really just about losing that bare paper. And as the colour goes on, you can see that's really knocking back that that black. It's becoming like a charcoal grey, and then at the end I can go in with more definite black. Okay, now I'm going to put that grey on, going at a slightly different angle. And I will start to think about form, so I maybe start to go very slightly darker there, very slightly darker there, and here as we go in. You may know, but this is called form shadow here. So when you've got an object that has a turn, like these eyes, which are sort of hemispherical, then as it turns away from the light, it gets darker, and that's called a form shadow, as opposed to these, which are cast shadows. And they have a very different nature, the form shadows and cast shadows. They all pick up bounced light, which isn't really, we're not going to do that really in this, but cast shadows tend to have a much harder edge in general, particularly if they're cast in bright light on something that's very shiny. Right, and now I'm going to do a bit of white. So again, this will cool it down. So this is called Chinese white, which basically just is a really cool white. And this will really help. It smooths the pencil a bit. I don't want it completely smooth, but it sort of acts as a blending pencil. So I'm really concentrating on those areas that will catch the light. And that's why it's so useful to have decided in advance where the light's coming from. So you can use it very well at this point. And the way the so this edge here, this is quite thin, and so you can see I've used a very quick turn, whereas here it's a more gradual turn on the head, because it's not such a sharp edge, if that makes sense. So that, again, that's a trick for showing form. Right, and just here we'll get a little bit of a light caught on that bit there, maybe on this edge. And here. When I do, occasionally I do drawing teaching for, like I do a drawing workshop for A-level, and we talk about shadows falling on faces. So you can see on my face there's a very sharp turn there, and then here it's more, because my cheek's rounder, it goes more gradually. So it's exactly the same principle. So I can show this, you know, this tail's kind of quite you know, will turn quickly there and then more slowly as it gets wider. So that's a case of, you know, a mix of kind of observation and yeah. Right, so we would actually have a bit of a cast shadow going on here, so but I'm not going to massively overdo that, but I am going to use this white just to show these paws, which I'm afraid because of the light you can't quite see, but take my word for it hopefully. And you'll see I will send I always send the customer a photo for approval before I frame or post my pictures so that you can see what you're getting. Right, so let's get some form here on Gillie's face there and again here. So now I'm going in to make the light catch a bit more on Gillie, and we're going to do a bit more dark on Gillie as well. And just sort of marking out a few bits where I want to remember to go light. Right, now next stage, I'm going to see what that looks like now that we've got a bit of colour on with, I'm going to try my light again, let's see. It's really bleaching this colour, if I go in closer. Okay, I think that's all right. Right, so next stage is I use these pens. So these are Posca, Uni Posca, and they're very nice. I think they've got alcohol in them, I'm not sure. Anyway, this is actually on the drawing board. There, right. So I use them like that, and they slightly fade as they dry. I have to keep shaking them to mix the ink in. And I usually have a couple on the go because as they start to run out of ink, they still look bright when they go on, but then they fade, and they're really great for texture. Let's go in close so you can see. So as with the ink, it can be a bit severe to start with, and then you can tone it down with pencil. So we're on the home straight now. We've basically got a couple more layers. And I can use this not just to illustrate texture, but also to help show form, like as I said, that fold and, you know, that one there. And Stingy's tail. And then I'm conscious of this seam down the middle as well, wanting to kind of just subtly allude to it, not so that it looks like a big fat eyesore, but and I can see Stingy has got a little bit more texture on the eye there. Let's do that, and we'll have some here too, catching that edge. And then this edge most definitely. And because this edge is closer to the viewer as well, I'm going to do slightly bigger marks to kind of show that scale, try and bring it forward a little bit more. This is all in shadow here. I don't think I'm going to highlight. I think I will, and then I'll knock it back. I just want to give a sense of that edge there, under there, but I will knock that back. Okay, and then let's look at the texture of Gillie's muzzle, which is quite bobbly there, and nice. And I can see that Gillie's nose is shiny, so I am going to put a little highlight there. And let me think, so there would be a highlight there and maybe a highlight there, so when I've coloured that in, hopefully that will make more sense. We've got lovely fur here. I will do the eye highlights at the very end. And then this is all in shadow, but I will still do a few little bits that I will knock back here. Again, I'm going to turn that light off again. Sorry for the there, you can just see the right, and then so a really lovely eyebrow action going on there, and some quite long fur here. And this texture, I'm not just going in the whites, I'm going in the golden bits as well. There we go. And Gillie almost has a slight kind of arch going on there. These bits of fur around the eyes can make a huge difference to the expression. And then we've got a little ledge of ear fluff here. Again, that will be toned down. And then a sense of this coming over the front there. So that'll catch the light. Even the darker fur will catch the light. So I'm going to go over that white with coloured pencils. I'll go back in with the colour. Oh, and this is what I was going to say about the eyes. So I can take that really white just there, and then towards the end I will colour that with the yellow pen, and that will really, hopefully that shines. I'll make a real shine. Okay, and I try and work along the hair, so it's the same if you're doing, usually when you're doing portraits you don't do individual hairs, but if you are doing individual hairs you work from the root to the tip so that it kind of fades out. So same principle coming in handy here. Right, let's get those paws, and so we've got that lovely there, and then there'll be a bit of just a little bit of texture. It looks very crude like this, but once this white pen dries very quickly, and then I can go in, I'll blend it with the colour and it'll be like when I blended Stingy. So that bit there, I'm going to definitely go to a little bit to town on, because I want it to be obvious that the ear is darker and in front, and that bit. So we're catching, I'm thinking about where the light would catch, and it would catch here as well. And I can use this white pen to break up that line that I changed my mind about here. There, and go in with the colour later. Right, oh, get that knee. And there's actually a bit of an edge to this. I'm going to do this here, just to pick up that edge, and then I will tone that down again, as before. And I'm just going to pick out these eyes a tiny bit more to help them, help with the expressiveness. Okay, the odd stray hair breaking that edge. Right, so now you can see Gillie looks really quite scruffy, but that's okay, because I can go in a second and blend over and also strengthen the lights and darks a little bit. But before I do that, while that's drying, I will do the same on Stingy. So I'm going to go back with that grey pencil and do the last layer of pencil, which it won't completely kill the white, but it'll just knock it back so that it doesn't feel, hopefully he doesn't feel prickly, he feels a little bit more luxurious and velvety. Might actually go over with the white again as well. This is the penultimate bit on Stingy, and the last bit will be going in finally with the black ink again. Right, and then I'll do the same here, catch that light, and feel as though I'd quite like to go slightly stronger with the colours. They're not as bland as they look on camera, but they don't feel quite dark enough. So I might just go a little bit stronger. That's the orange, yeah. And this makes the orange fur, so it makes those white highlights orange basically. Just give that colour a little bit more density, a little bit more richness. Because the papers are cool, you know, it's a warm grey, but compared to, you know, temperature is all relative, so compared to Gillie, the paper is cool, and it's like the hardest colour I find to get in these toys is yellow, because the paper just cools it so much. I have to go really definite with the yellow. Oh, that's better. Right, that's really starting to brighten up. So, nice thing about these pencils, they're really nicely pigmented, and really, yeah, really strong. It's coming together. Right, and I feel like this area here isn't receding enough, or you could say that Gillie's face isn't coming out towards the viewer enough. So I am going to knock this back a little bit with, I think I'll use this brown. Let's try. And in this area as well, I want it to kind of, I don't want that to catch the attention. I want it to be different. And to but I need to keep it warm, so I don't want to go in with a really dark, cool black to keep that sort of transparency. And here as well, where that form turns away, I really do want it to be a bit darker, and that'll make that foot pop forward a bit more. Right, and I'm going to go in with a dark brown. I've got a really lethal chocolate brown somewhere. Let's have a look. That's black. I'm definitely... Oh, I think it's the one that fell on the floor. Have I got another one? Where did it go? Let's find that brown. I can see it. Excuse me 1 second. Okay, watch this. Yeah, don't want to overdo that. Effect. And just like work, I'm just slightly working some in round here for expression. Okay, and now we're on the home straight now. So I'm going to go back in with the ink. Okay, so let's lift that up a bit, you can see. This camera goes exactly the opposite way I expect it to. There. Right. And what have we? Where's my pen? Oh, here we are. Along with the cold tea. So I've got my pen. I take my scrap paper just for security. I do not want to spill ink on it now. So this is why I didn't do the title first, because with the title, if the title splodges, you've lost the lot. But it may splodge, and if it splodges, that is just one of those things. We should be okay. It's quite rare. So I'm basically re-intensifying and shoring up the edges. In those darkest darks. Make sure those eyes are really clear. You see this sometimes on, I was looking at Velasquez paintings, and sometimes he will describe eyes with the most really subtle, just little flecks of paint. And that's the kind of principle I'm trying to use here. So not really going along edges, just picking out those bits where it really needs to be distinct. And also just like to reclaim a little bit the drawing element. So I think that is it basically, as I would at this point take a nice photo and send it to the client and invite them to offer any changes, you know, anything that doesn't look right, anything that they want different apart from the spelling of the name, which I can't really change at this point. But I hopefully that meets with approval. I'm going to check my WhatsApp. This isn't the one and only, but I'll just check the WhatsApp to see, because I think you might still be watching. I don't know. Perhaps you've gone off and done something else. Let's have a look. 1:10. So that was 2 hours. No new messages, so that's fine. Right, so I would typically sign it here, so I might as well do that, and then I will take my leave and invite the client to give some feedback and take their time, so not under the pressure of a live stream, and I can make changes. So let's go there. Right. So thank you so much. If you're still here, I have no idea why you watched so long, and I really appreciate it. I love doing these, so if you want any more, don't hesitate to join my newsletter, and if I open up for more, which I will at least at next Christmas, but maybe before, we'll see. Sometimes I do Valentine's ones where it's a couple and they have their they each have their soft toy, you know, little things like that. They're quite sweet. But generally Christmas is my busy time, and it's my busy time for the other stuff as well. So I'm so happy. This one has been an absolute delight. It's a crowning glory of my 2022 Soggy Rabbit year. So thank you, and I'm sorry there's been no music. Right, have a great rest of week and weekend, and I'll see you on here soon. Thank you, bye bye.